In the months leading up to his passing in February 2025, Dr. Harald Malmgren, a distinguished advisor to 4 US presidents, began to disclose a series of extraordinary events that had remained classified for decades. Among these revelations was an incident during the 1962 Bluegill Triple Prime nuclear test, part of Operation Dominic, where a UFO was allegedly shot down. This disclosure has reignited discussions about the intersection of nuclear weapons testing and unidentified aerial phenomena, shedding light on a potentially pivotal moment in Cold War history. The early 1960s were marked by heightened tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union, with events such as the Bay of Pigs invasion and the Cuban Missile Crisis bringing the world perilously close to nuclear conflict. Dr. Malmgren, serving within the Defense Atomic Support Agency, was at the forefront of these developments, advising on matters of national security and nuclear policy. He often found himself at odds with military figures like General Curtis LeMay, known for his aggressive stance on nuclear engagement. Operation Dominic was a series of nuclear tests conducted by the United States in 1962, aimed at understanding the effects of nuclear detonations at various altitudes. Within this operation, the Bluegill Triple Prime test, conducted on October 26, 1962, involved the detonation of a nuclear warhead at high altitude to study its impact on missile systems and electronic equipment. The test was meticulously planned, with restricted airspace and advanced recording equipment to capture every detail. According to Dr. Malmgren, during the Bluegill Triple Prime test, an unidentified object was observed following the test missile. These objects, colloquially referred to as tagalongs, had been noted in previous tests, often appearing in proximity to missile launches. In this instance, the object was caught in the nuclear explosion's fireball, an environment with temperatures estimated to reach around 1 million degrees, sufficient to vaporize any known material. Remarkably, footage from the test reportedly shows an object falling from the fireball, suggesting it survived the extreme conditions. Further intrigue arises from the existence of 2 separate recordings of the test, one from Los Alamos National Laboratory and another from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. In the Los Alamos footage, the object is visible falling from the explosion, while the Lawrence Livermore footage appears to have a white triangle obscuring the same area, implying deliberate redaction. This discrepancy raises questions about the nature of the object and the reasons for its concealment. Naval logs from the day of the test report the recovery of 2 unusual objects from the ocean, a black ball and a green tube, both emitting radiation. These items did not correspond to any known test equipment and were found in the vicinity of the test site, suggesting a possible connection to the unidentified object observed in the footage. The recovery of these items points to a potential crash retrieval operation, a notion supported by subsequent classified briefings and visits to Los Alamos National Laboratory by high-ranking officials, including President John F. Kennedy. Malmgren's daughter, Dr. Pippa Malmgren, an economist and former presidential advisor, corroborated her father's accounts, noting that he referred to these objects as tagalongs and had long been aware of their presence during nuclear tests. She emphasized that her father had been reticent to discuss these events publicly until shortly before his death, when he felt compelled to share his experiences. The involvement of General Curtis LeMay adds another layer to the narrative. LeMay, known for his staunch advocacy of nuclear readiness, was reportedly present during the classified briefings following the Bluegill Triple Prime test. Senator Barry Goldwater later recounted an incident where he inquired about the existence of a secret UFO repository at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, only to be rebuffed angrily by LeMay, who denied access and refused to discuss the matter further. This interaction suggests a concerted effort to maintain secrecy around UFO-related incidents. The broader context of these events intersects with ongoing discussions about governmental transparency regarding UAPs. In a surprising turn of events, the Wikipedia page of Dr. Harald Malmgren has been suddenly nominated for deletion. The timing has sparked widespread concern among researchers and members of the UFO disclosure community, many of whom believe the move may be part of a coordinated effort to diminish Malmgren's credibility posthumously. For decades, his public service and policy influence were uncontested, making the deletion effort appear out of place. Critics argue that this only began once he started speaking openly about high-level briefings and encounters with recovered UFO materials during the final months of his life. The attempt to erase his digital legacy has fueled speculation of a deeper cover-up, raising serious questions about the suppression of whistleblower testimony and historical truth. Recent legislative efforts, such as the 2023 UFO Disclosure Act, aim to address the classification of information related to unidentified phenomena, particularly when such classification stems from interpretations of the Atomic Energy Act of 1954. The Act's provisions have been cited as a means to withhold information under the guise of protecting nuclear secrets, thereby limiting public and congressional access to potentially significant data. Dr. Malmgren's revelations, supported by documentation and corroborated by other witnesses, underscore the need for a re-evaluation of policies surrounding the disclosure of information related to UAPs. The intersection of national security, scientific inquiry, and public interest necessitates a balanced approach that ensures transparency without compromising legitimate security concerns. In conclusion, the account provided by Dr. Harald Malmgren regarding the 1962 Bluegill Triple Prime nuclear test presents compelling evidence of an encounter with an unidentified object during a critical period in Cold War history. The incident, characterized by the observation, potential downing, and recovery of a UFO, has been shrouded in secrecy for decades. In the final months of his life, Dr. Harald Malmgren, a respected advisor to 4 US presidents, revealed what may be among the most extraordinary and perplexing experiences of his career, one tied to the UFO phenomena and national defense secrets dating back to the early 1960s. While many viewed Malmgren as a traditional foreign policy and economic advisor, his late-life disclosures shed light on deeply classified interactions that suggest a level of technological and psychological phenomena far beyond conventional scientific understanding. After the Bluegill Triple Prime nuclear test in October 1962, an event already surrounded by controversy due to an alleged UFO being downed during the detonation, Malmgren was brought into a rarefied circle of individuals within the government who had knowledge of what were referred to as otherworld technologies. His encounter with Lawrence Gies, the then regional director of the Atomic Energy Commission, was not only strange, but marked the beginning of Malmgren's entry into a world far removed from conventional policy briefings. Gies was no ordinary bureaucrat. Beyond his position at the Atomic Energy Commission, he was one of the early deputy administrators for the newly formed Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency in 1958. As the grandfather of Jeff Bezos, his name would eventually resurface in a vastly different context, but his work at the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency placed him at the forefront of the United States' most secretive technological pursuits. Under Gies's watch, DARPA contributed to the development of ARPANET, the foundation of the Internet, as well as early versions of GPS and, more recently, brain-interfacing nanoparticle technologies that are today being studied for potential military applications. According to Malmgren's daughter, Dr. Pippa Malmgren, who recounted some of these events, her father met Gies in his office after the Bluegill test. On his desk were physical fragments, pieces allegedly recovered from the object that fell from the nuclear fireball. Gies invited Malmgren to touch the materials and describe his sensations. When Malmgren did, he reported experiencing a kind of auditory phenomenon, voices, though no one was speaking. Gies's response suggested this was expected. He explained that some of the recovered material had interactive properties that appeared to manifest only with certain individuals. This interaction raises profound questions, not only about the technology involved, but about the nature of consciousness itself. Telepathic or non-vocal communication has long been associated with reports of close encounters and abduction cases. Dr. John Mack, the former head of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, investigated hundreds of such cases and often found that experiencers described similar mental communication. While these claims have been dismissed by skeptics as fantasy or delusion, there is growing evidence that science is beginning to bridge the gap between mind and machine. The use of brain-computer interfaces is no longer speculative. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency's current projects include injecting nanoparticles into the human brain to map neurons and allow soldiers to interface with drones and defense systems simply by thinking. With this context in mind, the idea that exotic materials, possibly extraterrestrial in origin, could interact with human consciousness is no longer outside the realm of scientific curiosity. Instead, it aligns with a growing body of research suggesting technology and consciousness may one day be as intertwined as silicon and code. Malmgren's account of his experience with Gs is admittedly one of the more extraordinary claims he made, yet he seemed fully aware of its implications. Given his lifelong credibility and the timing of the revelations just before his passing, it appears that Malmgren was committed to sharing the full truth, no matter how unbelievable it might seem to others. Following this strange encounter, Gs arranged another meeting, this time with Richard Bissell, the former CIA Deputy Director for Plans and one of the most influential architects of covert Cold War operations. Bissell was infamous for his involvement in the failed Bay of Pigs invasion and for working closely with figures in the mafia to carry out operations against Fidel Castro. He also played a major role in the development of the CIA's top-secret, highly classified United States Air Force facility within the Nevada Test and Training Range facility and co-founded the National Reconnaissance Office, which was responsible for satellite intelligence gathering. Malmgren recalled that during their first meeting, Bissell said something that would stay with him for decades. "You are the youngest of the whiz kids. I am going to tell you things because someone needs to know this in the future, and you'll still be around." This declaration was not casual. It was a calculated decision by Bissell to pass along knowledge to a trusted insider who would serve future administrations. Malmgren would go on to advise 3 more presidents, and Bissell evidently wanted at least one advisor to the highest office in the land to understand that certain truths about advanced technology, and possibly non-human intelligence, existed far outside the public's awareness. Bissell and Malmgren reportedly met every Friday for months, discussing topics that have never been fully revealed. However, Malmgren alluded to receiving informal briefings about reverse engineering technology and non-terrestrial materials. It's difficult to imagine a more credible chain of custody for such information, from the AEC and DARPA to the CIA to the advisors of 4 US presidents. Meanwhile, the NRO, the agency Bissell helped found, has become increasingly implicated in the UFO discussion. Initially so secret that its existence wasn't acknowledged until the 1990s, the NRO has maintained a network of highly advanced satellites capable of capturing imagery of Earth from space. In recent years, documents obtained through the Freedom of Information Act by researchers like John Greenwald revealed that these satellites have recorded what the agency called anomalous aerospace phenomena. A set of 2021 communications about the NRO's sentient program, which uses AI and multi-sensor data to predict and track targets, revealed that this system had been used to image a white cylindrical object, commonly described as a tic-tac UFO. One redacted email indicated the sentient system had recorded multiple images of this object and required coordination with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the Pentagon's UAP task force. What's more, an internal NRO email stated that we need an external customer to ask for it to be turned on, implying the system can be deployed to search specifically for UFOs if requested by appropriate government authorities. Given that the NRO was once led by Bissell and maintains capabilities to track unidentified objects, the question must be asked, how long has this tracking been happening? Further complicating matters is the contradictory behavior of the NRO when it comes to Freedom of Information Act requests. In 2015, when John Greenwald asked for their UFO files, the agency replied that the topic was outside the scope of its responsibilities. Yet less than a decade later, internal emails show the NRO actively monitoring and discussing UAPs with other intelligence agencies. This suggests not just awareness, but active participation in the observation of unidentified craft. Returning to Malmgren's revelations, one is left with a powerful impression of a man burdened by secrets for decades, now determined to share his experiences before it was too late. His testimony not only fits within a broader narrative of high-level government knowledge about UAPs, but also connects the dots between organizations like DARPA, the CIA, and the NRO, agencies known for operating in the shadows of technological innovation and global surveillance.